feel like Ontario's housing market is untouchable. Toronto's always expensive, right? Ottawa's the capital, Hamilton's booming, Mississauga's. Well, Mississauga exists, but I've got to be real with you, they can fall. And they will, hard. Here's what nobody's telling you. RBC just released a forecast in August 2025 stating that Ontario home prices will experience the steepest drops in Canada due to high inventory levels and strong competition among sellers. We're not talking 2% declines. We're talking double digits in some neighborhoods. And before anyone says that's impossible, Ontario always bounces back. Remember what happened in the 1990s. Toronto real estate crashed 30–40% and took 12 years to recover. 12 years, but here's the kicker. That crash happened with lower household debt, younger demographics, and falling interest rates. This time, we've got record debt, aging boomers liquidating, and the Bank of Canada trapped at 2.75% because of inflation. I get it. Some of you have been saving for years, watching prices run away while your paychecks barely keep up. Others of you stretched to buy in 2021-2022, thinking you'd locked in your future. I felt that same frustration. That's why I'm making this video, not to scare you but to prepare you, because what's coming in 2026 is going to catch a lot of people off guard, and I don't want you to be one of them. CBC News reported in September 2025 that housing construction in Toronto is so behind that the city received an F grade, an F for housing starts. Construction is down 58%, sales down 91%. You know what that means? It means when those 80,000 plus condo units under construction hit the market over the next 18 months, there's no buyers to absorb them. Zero. If you want housing in Ontario to finally make sense again, or if you just want to protect yourself from financial devastation, hit that like button right now, because we're about to break down the 10 regions sitting on a ticking time bomb. Subscribe because this channel is the only place giving you the full, unfiltered truth about Canadian real estate. Let's get into it. 10 Barrie, the pandemic escape that became a trap. Barrie, the city that thought it could ride Toronto's coattails forever without any of Toronto's actual job market. Home prices here jumped 67% between 2020 and 2022. 67% for Barrie, a city where the biggest employer is. Let me check. Oh right, nobody major. The median home price hit $775,000 last year. Meanwhile, the median household income is around $78,000. Let's do the math. That's a $5,800 monthly mortgage payment at current rates. You're bringing home maybe $5,200 after taxes. How exactly are you supposed to eat? Here's the thing. Barrie bet everything on Toronto remote workers fleeing the city. And guess what's happening now? Return to office mandates. Amazon wants butts in seats. Microsoft's calling everyone back. Those Bay Street workers who bought sight unseen, they're about to dump those properties faster than you can say. 407 ETR toll fees. Oxford Economics warned in July 2025 that Canada's housing slump will extend into 2026, with condo investors potentially facing losses as prices of units have to fall in order to move. And get this, the city approved 9,000 new housing units in development. 9,000. In a city where population growth just slowed to 0.4%. Comment below if you think remote work was the biggest real estate bubble we've ever seen. Because Barrie's about to find out the hard way, but Barrie isn't the only one about to eat humble pie. Just head south and you'll find another city that priced itself into fantasy land. 9. Oshawa. GM left, but the prices stayed. Oshawa, the city that somehow forgot General Motors closed its assembly plant in 2019. Listen, I genuinely feel for Oshawa families. This was an auto town. Blue-collar, hardworking union jobs that paid real money. But those jobs are gone, and yet home prices are still acting like it's 1985 and the plant's running 3 shifts. Median price, $850,000 for Oshawa, not Toronto, not even Mississauga. Oshawa, the kicker. CMHC forecasted in June 2025 that Ontario would see larger price drops than the national average of 2%, specifically citing reduced investor activity in the condo market. You know what Oshawa doesn't have? Tech jobs. You know what it does have? A massive oversupply of aging bungalows that were bought by Toronto investors who thought Durham region is the next big thing. Spoiler, it wasn't. The biggest employer now, Lackeridge Healthcare. Which is great, but nurses can't afford $850,000 homes either. I know some of you watching this are in Oshawa right now, staring at renewal letters, running the numbers over and over. You're not alone. This isn't your fault. This is a systemic failure. But here's what makes this worse. Those investors who bought condos in the new downtown developments, they're sitting on units they can't rent for positive cash flow. And when their mortgage renewals hit in 2026, they're going to panic sell. That's when Oshawa's floor drops out. Subscribe if you want to follow this unfolding disaster, because when Toronto's mortgage renewals really hit, Oshawa is going to feel it twice as hard. 8. Kitchener-Waterloo tech hub or tech bubble. Kitchener-Waterloo, the cities that spent a decade calling themselves Silicon Valley North while actually being slightly better than London, Ontario. Don't get me wrong, Waterloo has the university, there's some tech presence, but let's be real. Prices here assume everyone works at Google, Shopify, or some unicorn startup. Median home price, $815,000. The reality, most people work in insurance, manufacturing, or drive to Toronto. That's not a tech hub, that's a commuter suburb with delusions of grandeur. Fraser Institute reported in 2025 that Ontario's housing construction fell 25% in the first half of the year compared to 2024, while the rest of Canada saw a 17% increase. Ontario is literally dragging down the entire country. Here's what nobody's talking about. BlackBerry used to be the anchor here. Remember them? Yeah, they're a shadow of what they were. And those new grads from Waterloo. They're moving to actual Silicon Valley or staying remote in cheaper cities. The condo towers they built in downtown Kitchener, sitting 35% vacant. Nobody wants to pay $2,200 a month to live above a Tim Hortons in a city where the nightlife peaks at 9 p.m. The commute to Toronto is brutal, 2 hours each way if Geo Transit is on time, which it never is. And with gas at $1.70 liter, that's $500+ month dollars just to get to work. Comment what you think. Is Kitchener-Waterloo a real tech hub or just branding? Because when those mortgage renewals hit and those tech layoffs continue, this market's about to discover what happens when your whole economy is based on a narrative that never materialized. 7. London, the affordable city that isn't London, Ontario. The city realtors kept calling affordable while prices doubled. Median home price in 2019, $350,000. Median in 2022, $730,000. Median now, $650,000. Wait, it's already dropping. Yeah. And it's going to drop more. Here's the problem. London doesn't have the economic fundamentals to support those valuations. Western University is great, but students don't buy $650,000 homes. The hospital employs people, sure, but nurses making $75,000 can't afford those prices either. So who is buying? Toronto investors, GTA families cashing out equity and moving somewhere cheaper. And speculators who thought London was the next Hamilton. Royal LePage reported in October 2025 that in the Greater Golden Horseshoe, homes are sitting longer and longer unsold with more depreciation in prices. But guess what? Those Toronto families who moved here are realizing London, there's no culture, the job market is thin and their kids hate it, so they're selling or trying to. But there's 8 houses for sale on every block and nobody's buying. The student rental market? Oversaturated. Western reduced international enrollment and domestic students are crammed into shared housing because they can't afford anything else. If you're in London and you bought at the peak, I genuinely feel for you. But the correction here is going to be severe because the prices never made sense in the first place. That 2019 price of $350,000, that's where we're headed back to. Maybe not in 2026, but by 2027 to 2028, absolutely. 6. Burlington, the prestige that's priceless Burlington, where they charge you a $300,000 premium for the privilege of saying, I don't live in Hamilton. Median home price, $1.1 million. For what? A split level built in 1975 that needs a new roof, HVAC, and probably has knob and tube wiring behind the walls. Here's the con. Burlington sold itself as lakefront luxury and superior schools. But half the city isn't even near the lake, and those schools are only superior because housing prices filter out everyone who can't afford to live there. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that's about to self-destruct. CREA updated forecasts in October 2025, projecting that only British Columbia and Ontario will see home price declines, with Ontario being hit particularly hard. The kicker, property taxes in Burlington average $8,500 a year. Add insurance, maintenance, and your mortgage, and you're paying $7,000+ month dollars to live in a city where the biggest attraction is IKEA, and those waterfront properties everyone paid a premium for. They're facing infrastructure assessments for seawall repairs, flooding mitigation, and climate adaptation. That's another $15,000.25,000 in special levies coming. When recession hits, and it will, watch how fast prestige turns into please someone buy this. If you're reading this from Burlington right now, ask yourself honestly, is living here worth being housepoor for the next 20 years? Because that's the choice you're facing. 5. Brampton, the speculation capital. Brampton, oh Brampton. The city where every third house was bought by an investor who's never actually seen it in person. Median home price, $950,000 for Brampton, the place where insurance companies literally charge you more because of the postal code. Here's what's actually happening. Brampton was ground zero for speculative buying, families pooling money to buy properties, investors buying pre-construction and flipping assignments, foreign buyers using numbered companies. And now the music stopped. RESCON gave Brampton an F grade in September 2025, reporting housing starts fell 50% while the city desperately needs more supply. Those investors who bought thinking they'd flip or rent for positive cash flow, they're underwater. Rental rates are stagnant because supply is overwhelming demand and tenants have options now. Pre-construction assignments are being sold at losses. People are walking away from $50,000, $100,000 deposits because closing on a $1.2 million condo that's now worth $900,000 makes no financial sense. And when those investors realize they're trapped, when they start panic selling to cut losses, the floor will drop out of Brampton's market. I know if you bought in Brampton during the pandemic, you're probably feeling sick to your stomach right now, wondering if you made the worst decision of your life. But here's what I need you to understand. You were sold a lie. You were told prices only go up. You were told buy now or be priced out forever. That wasn't financial advice. That was propaganda designed to keep the machine running. Comment if you think Brampton is the worst hit market in Ontario. I want to hear your stories. 4. Mississauga, Toronto's shadow. Mississauga, the city that exists solely to be slightly cheaper than Toronto while offering none of Toronto's benefits. Median home price, $1.05 million. For what? A townhouse with $450 month condo fees and a 90-minute commute to downtown. Here's the brutal truth. Mississauga has no identity. It's not Toronto, it's not charming, it's just there, a sprawling mess of highways, strip malls, and subdivisions that all look identical. The biggest employer, the airport, and guess what happens to airport jobs when economic slowdowns hit? They vanish. Ontario's Ministry of Finance forecasted in 2025 a 1.2% decline in average home resale prices for Ontario in 2025, with modest but uncertain growth in 2026 to 0.27. Those condo towers at Square One, sitting at 40% vacancy. Investors bought them thinking transit hub guaranteed renters. But renters have figured out they can live in actual Toronto for similar money and get, a life. Mississauga's problem is simple. It has Toronto's prices without Toronto's value. And when people realize that, when they realize they're paying $1 million to live in suburban purgatory, the sell-off begins. And it's already starting. Listings are up 35% year over year, days on market are climbing, price cuts are becoming standard. Subscribe right now if you want to watch this slow-motion disaster unfold, because Mississauga is about to learn that being Toronto-adjacent isn't worth $1 million mortgage. 3. Hamilton, the pandemic darling turned disaster. Hamilton, the city that went from affordable alternative to how did we get here in 3 years flat. Prices in Hamilton doubled between 2019 and 2022 in some neighborhoods. Doubled, that's not sustainable growth, that's mania. I genuinely feel for Hamilton families. This was supposed to be the answer. Can't afford Toronto? Try Hamilton. It's got McMaster University, the hospital, some culture. It should have worked. But here's what happened. Toronto buyers flooded in with their insane equity, outbid locals on everything, and pushed prices to $850,000 plus for homes that needed $200,000 in renovations. Now those Toronto buyers are realizing Hamilton is a 90-minute commute minimum, has limited job opportunities, and the up-and-coming neighborhoods are still sketchy after dark. Multiple economic forecasts from 2025 warn that Ontario's condo market is a mess, with investor losses mounting as prices must fall to move inventory. So they're selling or trying to, but the local buyers they priced out still can't afford these prices, and other Toronto buyers they've stopped coming. Hamilton's crash is going to be one of the sharpest corrections because the fundamentals never supported these valuations. When prices revert to historical norms, and they will, homeowners who bought at the peak will be devastated. We're talking 25–30% declines from peak levels. That wipes out everyone who put less than 30% down. Comment what you think happens to Hamilton in 2026, full collapse or just painful correction. 2. Ottawa, when the government cuts, the city bleeds. Ottawa, the capital, the city where 30% of employment is government jobs. And guess what happens when budget cuts hit? Median home price, $650,000, which sounds almost reasonable until you realize the entire economy depends on public sector stability. And that stability, it's evaporating. Federal budget projections show a $4 billion shortfall coming. That means hearing freezes, layoffs, and a whole lot of government workers realizing their $650,000 mortgage was based on job security that just disappeared. Bank of Canada is holding rates at 2.75% through 2026 according to forecasts, which means no relief for mortgage renewals. Here's what breaks my heart. Government workers in Ottawa have historically been the most stable buyer demographic. Teachers, public servants, policy analysts, they thought they were safe. But austerity is coming. And when your entire city depends on government paychecks, budget cuts don't just hurt employment, they destroy housing demand. Those new condo developments in LeBreton Flats and Zibi, they're sitting unsold. The suburban sprawl in Kanata and Barrie, families are underwater on mortgages they can't afford post-renewal. Ottawa's problem isn't speculation, it's structural. The economic foundation is cracking and there's no backup plan. When recession hits and public sector cuts accelerate, Ottawa's market isn't just going to decline, it's going to seize up completely. 1. Toronto-specific neighborhoods, the epicenter of devastation. And here it is, the big one. Not all of Toronto, let's be clear, but specific neighborhoods that absolutely lost their minds. Liberty Village, one-bedroom condos for $750,000 that come with complimentary noise from the train tracks and zero parking. These units were bought by investors who thought they'd Airbnb them or rent to young professionals. Except Airbnb got regulated and young professionals can't afford $2,800 month rent. King West, where you pay $1.2 million to live above a nightclub that closes at 2 a.m. every weekend. Great for your sleep schedule. Fantastic for your property value when everyone realizes living here is unbearable. City Place? Oh, City Place, the neighborhood that's 90% investor-owned and 100% soulless. These towers were supposed to be the future of urban living. Instead, they're falling apart, condo fees are skyrocketing, and everyone who can leave is leaving. Here's the stat that should terrify you. Toronto has 30,000 empty units. 30,000. But somehow prices keep climbing because it's Toronto. No, it's delusion. Toronto's condo market has 80,000 plus units under construction with another 40,000 in pre-construct. The downtown core is still at 50% office capacity. Major employers are making remote work permanent. The conference center that drove hotel and condo development running at 30% pre-pandemic bookings. Here's the mathematical reality for hundreds of thousands of Toronto homeowners. You bought in North York in January 2022 for $1.7 million. You put down 20%, $340,000. You borrowed $1.36 million at 2.5%. Your payment was $6,000 a month. Fast forward to 2026. Your home is now worth $1.2 million, a 30% decline. You've lost $500,000 in equity. Your down payment completely gone. Your $160,000 underwater. Now your mortgage renews at 6%. Your new payment, $8,500 a month. You can't afford it, you have to sell. But guess what? Everyone in your neighborhood is in the same situation. There are 15 houses for sale on your street. No buyers. You drop your price to $1.15 M, then 1.1 M. You finally get an offer at 1.05 M. After commissions and legal fees, you walk away owing the bank $200,000. You've lost everything and you're still in debt. That's not a hypothetical. That's the reality for hundreds of thousands of Ontario homeowners who bought near the peak with less than 30% down. This is the hidden devastation that's coming, and no one in power is talking about it. So there you have it, 10 Ontario regions about to face reality harder than a first-year student discovering their philosophy degree doesn't pay rent. If you own in these cities, maybe consider selling to some investor who hasn't gotten the memo yet. If you're looking to buy, just wait. Trust me, just wait. The combination of factors converging in 2026 is unprecedented. 900,000 mortgages renewing across Canada, Ontario equals largest share. 80,000 plus condo units hitting Toronto market. Immigration cuts reducing demand 15–20%. Recession-driven layoffs forcing sales. Investor capitulation as the game ends. Multiple sources confirm CMHC, RBC, CREA, Oxford Economics all project Ontario price declines through 2025 to 0.26. Conservative estimates suggest 15–20% decline from current levels. More aggressive forecasts, and I think these are more realistic, suggest 25–35% declines in certain markets. Could the government stop this? The short answer is no. They can't lower interest rates. Bank of Canada's fighting inflation. They can't inject stimulus would worsen inflation. They can't create buyer demand. So what will they do? They'll watch it happen. They'll offer small relief programs that won't matter. They'll talk about soft landings and orderly adjustments. But they won't stop the crash because they can't. This train has already left the station. Comment your predictions: which city crashes first, which one surprises everyone by holding value. And if you think I'm wrong about your city, definitely comment, because I love being told I'm wrong by people who just spent their life savings on a 2-bedroom in Mississauga. Like this video if it saved you from making a massive mistake. Subscribe because we're tracking this disaster in real time. And remember, I'm not saying don't buy in Ontario. I'm saying don't buy in these regions at these prices in this economy. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next video where I'll be breaking down exactly what you should do if you're stuck in negative equity. Click another box on your screen to watch another video covering the real estate economy.